What's up, you guys? It's the OTC here, the Tribal Chief. So, I'm going to give you guys the high-def video about what this is about. This has nothing. This is not a vlog or anything. So if you guys are asking for vlogs, I'll do that another day. So this is a tribute for a wrestler that nobody probably never heard of. He died back in 2007. His name is Chris Benoit. His theme song is Driven by Anger, but it's a very good song. I just listened to it on the way home. He does something like that, but it's Chris Benoit. So we're here to talk about Chris Benoit, and yeah. So Chris Benoit first debuted in WCW before he joined WWE. He had an all-time good career in WCW. He was a two-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion. And his career there fell short because of a guy named, that is also dead, Kevin Sullivan. So, Chris was in WCW back in 1993, is when he first debuted. And then he didn't debut in WWE until 1997. So, he had a good run in WCW until Kevin Sullivan screwed him over. So, Kevin Sullivan was also back in WCW way earlier, before Chris Benoit was around. So Chris Benoit was married to a girl named Nancy, aka Woman. She was a manager for him and also his former spouse and wife, and she divorced him because he was changing way too much, and then she met Chris Benoit. So the thing is about with Nancy is she had a problem, that Kevin Sullivan had a problem with Chris Benoit on dating Nancy, but at the time, Kevin Sullivan and her were already divorced, so he made a threat back in WCW to Chris, saying that if you were to not leave Nancy, he said, I would anti-quote, harm you and your family, is what Kevin Sullivan said. So, back then, Kevin Sullivan was not really a good guy. There's rumors that he was part of a satanic cult, and that he did bad things. He had markings on his face. And then another thing is about within this case too, Kevin Sullivan was wearing a rest in peace incorrectly on his forehead when the news outlets asked him, did you have to do anything with Chris's suspicions and death? He said, well, it's a tragedy that he passed away. He was trying to prove that he was innocent, but you can tell by his body language when you watch this YouTube video called Conspiracy Channel. He will go into high depth about the Chris Benoit investigation death, but the case was rushed so quickly, the detectives didn't bother to search DNA in the house. They didn't bother to search for the phones that were missing of Nancy's and Chris's phones, and Chris's death was more suspicious. How can a guy commit suicide when on a over 300 pound weight machine? That requires a 4 or 5 person job to lift. So, therefore, the death of the family is kind of more suspicion, because the detectives went through everything way too quickly. The case shouldn't have been closed. I think it's still a cold case, because I think someone had it out for Chris and Nancy. But before we go into high depth, Chris Benoit was an ultimate good wrestler. It's sad that he died. One of the best wrestlers of all time. So, after he left WCW, he came to WWE back when it was called the World Wrestling Federation, and he was there till 2007 till the death happened. But some people even saying the CTE had to do something with his death. Me and a manager of mine at my job, I'm not going to go into detail, he and I agree on it too. CTE has nothing to do with to change someone to do that. If you were to ask John Cena, CM Punk, or anybody, they will tell you that he was a very nice guy. And he would have no audacity to do that to his family. And another thing is I want to mention too, Chris Benoit, I know the diving headbutt was his signature finishing maneuver, but people are saying that had to do with him having that head concussion having to do with this too, but no. So Chris Benoit, when he came to WWE, he was a 3-time WWE champion and 1-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion and 3-time World Tag Team Champion and 2-time Tag Team Champion. So he had a pretty good reign in WWE. His best friend, though, however, Eddie Guerrero, tribute to him, Latino Heat. He's also another good one. Him and Chris were very best friends. And another thing is, too, about high depth about Chris Benoit. He's innocent, at least in my opinion. So if anybody wants to try telling me something different, I get it. It's called opinions for a reason, but I really don't care. So if you have a problem with me talking about Chris Benoit, then don't subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have time for drama. Don't have time for it. So I am going to continue to support Chris Benoit from his legacy and everything else, and I really don't care if anybody gives me backlash for it. Like, I really don't care, because he was an all-time favorite WWE wrestler, and he will be missed. He had some great feuds. Him and Eddie, that match back in 05 was pretty gruesome. That match was awesome. And then he won the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania. I forgot which one it was. But he had a good, awesome tribute back in WrestleMania. Royal Rumble, he had like over 13 eliminations. It's pretty insane. So, Chris Benoit was also part of the Four Horsemen. He was with Ric Flair. It was him, Ric Flair, Eddie Guerrero, and another guy that just passed away I never heard about. He was also part of the Four Horsemen. So, Chris Benoit had a good history with WWE. Now, another thing is, WWE did a tribute for him for one day after his death, and then they decided to race him for history. And I feel bad for his son, David Benoit, because he had to go through all this bullcrap. But I think I agree with the son, the David guy, that his dad deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, respectfully, because, I mean, think about it, the guy had a long run. He first did wrestling after he graduated high school. Was part of Chris Benoit's biography. After that, he went to independent circuit, and then WCW in 1993, and then he left WCW in 1997, went to WWE, when it was called, formerly known as the World Wrestling Federation. And he had some good matches with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero. The list goes on and on. But everybody will tell you Chris Benoit was awesome to work with. If you interview or ask any questions to any of the superstars, they'll tell you that he was a good man to work with. And also, he was my dad's favorite wrestler. He was called Ravage Wolverine. And Chris Benoit had some all-time good matches. The best one I liked was when he hit Kane with the diving headbutt. It was awesome. But I've seen a lot of matches with Chris Benoit. The guy was, no doubt, the best wrestler ever of all time. But however, I think it's still disrespectful that they still let the wrestlers use his submission move, the crippler crossface, or crossface. I think it's disrespectful to use his signature move, because, again, he's passed away, so they don't bother to call it that anymore. They just call it a random submission move. So, in a way, WWE has done a lot, but nothing but disrespected the Benoit family. And how do I know this? Because, one, Vince McMahon was an idiot. He allowed situations in WWE that he shouldn't have done, but Vince is not part of this video. But again, Chris Benoit is innocent. The whole entire tragedy was just the death in 2007. Some people are saying that he did it because of Eddie Guerrero's death. That has nothing to do with that, but okay. The death is just... People are saying that Nancy was buried in a different location, like the living room, the bathroom. Like, make up your mind. The case was rushed way too quickly. They didn't bother to search DNA or anything in that house. And the phones were last pinged off of a highway in Fayetteville, Georgia. So, again, watch this guy named Conspiracy Channel. He will tell you more high depth about the case than I can. But either way, Chris Benoit was innocent. But again, he was a two-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, three-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and a three-time WWE World Tag Team Champion, and a two-time WWE Tag Team Champion. So again, he had a good run. The best match that you guys would watch is with him at WrestleMania, when I think it was Eddie Guerrero that he faced for the World Heavyweight title. And you'll see that he had an awesome celebration with his son and his wife. So again, in this coincidence, I think, personally, Kevin Sullivan got involved, but someone had it out for Chris and the family. So either way, this is just, again, to tell you guys who Chris Benoit was and part of his WWE career, but he does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, regardless of the situation. But again, he's innocent, so everybody needs to pay tribute for Chris Benoit. So if you guys want to know who he is, look him up on YouTube. There's YouTube videos. He'll tell you about his career and everything. So again, just be respectful, please. And also, just pay tribute to Chris Benoit. Thank you. Have a good one. Peace.